They say that the well has run dry on Hollywood. I don't think that's the case. It's just they're so scared because of the current political landmines to make something new. It's got to be politically correct, and it's got to like what is politically correct today is not going to be politically correct tomorrow. So they feel safer with this bait and switch to go back and remake something else. I mean, they could write new things, but they also don't want to take the chance on it and have to build a new audience. And they're scared. It's like one little faux pas. It's like so what happens with a script when everything has to be politically correct? Well, it's boring. There's no suspension of disbelief because depending on the character's ethnicity, you know who's going to be a purse puppy Mary Sue and who's going to solve every puzzle, and you know the ending. And like if there's simply on hair color, you could do a correlation chart. Like if you see dark hair and light hair, you could say, okay, well, most likely that the light hair is going to be the antagonist more often than not. And so you shouldn't be like that, obviously. But these are the future of Hollywood. So I was reading reviews about this, and the writers talk about the racist backlash, but they don't explain why it's Istophobic. If you don't want to see the original characters replaced, then they'll label you Istophobe. And there's no nuance to it. They don't even allow the possibility that there might be other options. This is the new standard. If you don't accept replacing the characters, then you're problematic and you're Istophobic. And they never present views and opinions from any other perspective. If a writer did try to, they would get dogpiled on Twitter and they get fired and they get blacklisted. I mean, they would just not be writing for Variety magazine or any other mainstream magazine. You would just be fired if you came out with anything that was off the narrative. So no other perspective is ever going to be allowed. And this is just kind of the path going forward, which is not a good sign when ideas can't be turned over, can't be disagreed with without getting dogpiled on Twitter. It's like it's really the Twitter effect of witch trials. So even for reviewers who didn't like the movie, they're only allowed to not like it for certain politically correct reasons. The idea of replacing the characters just has to be accepted. In fact, I don't think I saw anyone reviewing it whoever even mentioned that. It's like, well, that's clearly the elephant in the room. It's like the media, I've been saying this for a long time, the media is not the media anymore, including all this kind of pop culture media. If you didn't like the movie because of the replacement, there's no scenario where they can't reach a conclusion that you're phobic. They don't even want to admit the possibility of two sides to a story. It's kind of sad that the people who preach tolerance are not tolerant of diversity of thought. And honestly, it's a bad sign because so many of the younger generation were never taught how to think. They're taught what to think. They're just taught conclusion, not argument. There's a narrative in schools like with BLM and the LGBT stuff. Justin Trudeau has he lists the new acronym for the BLT stuff, and it's like 10 letters long, and he lists it correctly every time he says it. It's really fucking bizarre because he sat down. It starts off with like 2SL something 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 that goes on, and so he sat down and memorized it so he could ramble it off. Like, I'm better than you. My letters go past the original four. So I was like, just stop. This feels ridiculous. It feels performative because it is. So kids leave school and then they go work in the media, and it's just assumed that they'll be left wing. There's no right wing representation in Variety or any other kind of pop culture magazine at all. Like, it should kind of catch your attention that there's no there's no nuance in any mainstream publication at all. It's all left wing. It's like, how does that influence the how does it, like, what's downstream from culture, politics? So everything in their mind is within this concept of World War II and the concept of everything's istophobic if you disagree, and they can't even wrap their heads around the idea of alternative perspectives on anything. I was thinking about that the Pink Floyd thing yesterday, where the kids were outraged, but they didn't understand what was really going on, but they were still emotionally triggered because somebody told them to get emotionally triggered. They go, oh, he's literally in a German uniform, literally Hugo Boss from World War II. And, they're so adamant about it. And you go, look closer. He's literally not in that uniform. Literally, you mean maybe figuratively, but literally not. And they're so outraged about it. Like, so the history of the Wall, the album, the story, the concept. Like, they see people in English officers' uniforms from the war, and they get triggered. And you go, like, you understand that there was a lot of people and they had fairly similar uniforms. Like, This is just a stimulus response. There's no cognition going on. It's bizarre to see so many brainwashed people. And the thing is, the Roger Walters, like he was not in a German uniform. It's a thing from the show, but like it shouldn't matter if he was. You shouldn't have this emotional response over something like this. They have this programming installed on their minds, and it causes panic for them to try to break out of that programming, which sucks because when your ideas can't be questioned, they have no way of being corrected. So it just keeps going in this purity spiral where they get on these worse and worse ideas, because it's like with communism in Russia, that they always say like the communist dialectic predicts that this new farming method will be successful, or in North Korea with the Kim family coming up with some harebrained idea and they all have to pretend it's a good idea. And they do this with totalitarian dictatorships where you can't question the dear leader, and you go, but the ideas are trash. And like, what happens? Oh, well, people starve. Oh, well, shouldn't we be able to question those ideas? No. It's better to have people starve than to have the ideas being questioned. Which is where it's bizarre to think that these kids get out of school and they think they're so educated, and you go, so can you argue the opposing side of any argument? And they go, there is no opposing side. You're like, oh wow, this is deep 1984 levels. So can one scene ruin a movie? Yes, it can. If it's Awkwafina rapping as a bird to a little crab, an Asian girl using Ebonics, it is gag on your popcorn in the theater bad. And someone points out in the comments that Nora Lum, who plays Awkwafina, I guess that's her whatever character, has got to have an amazing head game, or her agent is in league with Satan, because how she's in Hollywood in the first place. She had a song on YouTube called My Vag, and it's a parody of some other song. It's like dun dun, my something is better than yours, something like this. It's stupid. I mean, even as a parody song, it's stupid. And it kind of helped her. She's probably doing stand up too, but it helped her get her foot off the ground. It's like, this is dumb. Why are you here? And I think about it. Well, because she's the checklist for the diversity, inclusion, and equity box, where she can do this urban accent, so she's ethnic without being too urban. It's like the South Park episode where they go, they tell Token, people like seeing characters, black characters on screen, seeing them. They want the narrative, like from Hollywood, is they want things very carefully curated, because you look at it like, so if you want this urban accent, why don't you just get a black girl to play these roles that Awkwafina would have played? It's like, well, Hollywood has a certain combination they're trying to go in for. And you look at Hollywood, it's like, oh, you guys are the scumbags the whole time. Anyway, I'm guessing her head game is A1 though. But the thing is, with all this, why would you remake a classic unless you know that you can absolutely knock it out of the park? Because diversity is like our strength, or like whatever. That's not much of an answer. Here's the thing. Everything from Hollywood now is going to suck. And I think in the past few years also, every once in a while someone comes out with one exception. You go, yeah, it's not supposed to be one exception. You go back, look at the 80s and 90s, or before in the 70s and whatnot. You go, there was hit after hit after hit. What happened to that generation of Hollywood? Like, well, this is a brave new world, and every day is Fahrenheit 451. So everything from the mainstream is going to be really BLT, because you see what all these corporations are getting on board with Pride Month. Like every corporation is on board this, and the white pill is that you don't have to watch any of this kind of cancer or drink Anheuser-Busch or Target or Walmart or the rest. You can always just find alternatives. So the originals of these movies are out there, and they are much better. You can watch the 89 version of Little Mermaid. It's pretty solid. It's like they go, don't get so triggered by this. Touch grass. It's a kids movie. But older kids movies were for kids, but the adults also could watch them and enjoy them. New kids movies are for, I don't know, like angry college chicks and kids, but like the Mary Sue type of writers is what the new stuff is for. So the original film, the 89 animation, you had a bunch of people who were part of an undersea kingdom, so they all look like they belong together. And the new film is well, it's just propaganda. And I can't play it because of copyright. There's this 2-minute song, you got to look it up on YouTube, Awkwafina Little Mermaid rap. It's enough to take you out of the movie. It's that bad. It might actually make you nauseous. So when you go to Rotten Tomatoes to look at the reviews, the first thing it hits you is a 95% audience score and good professional reviewers. But then you click the verified versus all score, and the user score drops down to like 50%. So it bombed. And I personally blame Awkwafina for everything. She is that cringy bad. Girl, I find I do some wrapping up in here. Yeah, word, homie. Ebonics like it's 1990. So there's not much good to say about the movie because it's not a movie. It's a Disney movie, which post past 10 years just means, oh, it's like we all know past 5 years. You all know what a recent Disney production is going to be. It's going to be propaganda or cultural bolshevism. What are you going to say? It's like the message is going to be very, very heavy. So it's kind of hard to review something that is so far from the reality of the original origin story. It's like, shouldn't you respect the artist's vision of the genesis of his creation and try to maintain that and curative instead of transformative? And look at you like you're crazy because that idea, those days are long, long gone. So it's not the Little Mermaid. It's Disney, like Marvel and Star Wars is Disney. You're not getting what it's supposed to be. You get Disney, a group of coked up, angry women who sit around a table and they're trying to come up with ideas that own the Chads, but it doesn't result in profit. The woman who did She-Hulk, they literally did an interview where they said that was part of their deal, was owning the Chads. And you look at them and you go, but you didn't get a second season, so make that make sense. And they don't have a response to that because they own the Chads, but it didn't go for a second season. That should have went for several seasons. It doesn't make sense because it just doesn't make sense. Anyway, so credit to everyone in the movie except for Awkwafina. It's not their fault. They did what the cat ladies told them to do. You sit in a green room and you pretend to talk to somebody who's in a green uniform and he's holding a puppet and the puppet represents where your eyes are supposed to go. And it should work, but it just doesn't quite work to track. Things just don't track. The computer has to map everything where the green should be, but you're mapping like this. You're trying to map it to it, and the 3-dimensional service to 2-dimensional service, and it just doesn't. It looks like you remember Jessica Rabbit, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and it's like that's an example of really bad tracking. But even the new stuff, it's just not quite right. Anyway, so Variety is saying that it's doing great, and they say it has a $38 million opening, but that includes the Thursday. They say Friday, and she makes a mistake literally in the article itself. She goes, Friday it made $38 million, and you look into it, and it goes, no, it made $28 million Friday. Thursday it made $10 million. So yeah, the opening, the total, but the Friday, it's like it didn't do what you're saying it did. So I don't know. I really strongly suspect. I'll go out on a limb and say that this is going to bomb. I can't see that it has legs. It's too long. It's too long for another thing. Kids' movies should be shorter. So the thing is, I think people are going to wait for the video and save the money. So it's probably going to underperform. But it doesn't matter because Disney's making propaganda. The money is legitimately secondary to them. But if it bombs, they're going to find a way to blame. They'll find a way to blame you. And the thing is, it shouldn't bomb because the people who are going to see the movie are kids who are going to want to go see it, and the parents are going to take them to it, or the parents might just wait for it to come out on streaming. But the people who don't like the movie, like we're not going to see it, like the Yellow Flash and the Gary Neurotic types, they're criticizing stuff as well as everyone's criticizing. But it's like, yeah, you probably weren't going to take your kids to see the movie either. And I don't know if there's that much demand. Like this is just not. The 89, you got to think of Disney from about, the 80s and the early 90s. Disney was a powerhouse. It was a lot of household names, like straight to VHS type of stuff, but it was in every household. And then, like, they make a movie release and then they do all these sequels, and those are all profitable. Disney was just huge from about, 85 to 95 or something. And you're just not going to recapture that kind of magic. So the thing is, with these new rules of political correctness, I don't think you can really do anything now with movies because everything has to have, there's a checklist. And if it doesn't follow that checklist, then it's going to be problematic on Twitter. So when I say Hollywood is legitimately over, I really mean that. I don't see a way for them to turn it around mostly because they don't want to turn around. Disney could do anything they wanted to. Disney's got their own distribution. They've got everything they want to do. This is what Disney wants to do, and this is what every other company wants to do. We should really have you scratching your head and going, wow, it really kind of feels like there's something else going on beneath the scenes, beneath the surface. Like there's these giant creatures, deep creatures that are, really, really, really forming these currents. Like you see the currents, but you got to understand the physics of the ocean and what's going on underneath the ocean to really understand, like, where are these currents, where are these waves coming from? Because there's machinations afoot. Anyway, so go watch the original animation from '89. You're never gonna recapture that kind of spirit. It's like they don't even try. This is, oh, if you don't like the movie, you're Islamophobic because I don't want to see a red-haired character replaced. Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Like, aren't you the Islamophobes for taking a European story and swapping out the original characters? No. See, it doesn't. It doesn't. Some convoluted nonsense answer. You go, yeah. I feel that you're Islamophobic. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys all next episode.